So some of the things, excuse me, that we're going to be covering today are why attend a career fair in the first place, especially maybe you're a freshman or you already have something lined up. Is it still worth coming? We'll talk about what you can get out of going to a career fair no matter what your circumstances. We will talk about our in-person fair and how to prepare for that. We will also talk about our virtual career fair and how to be prepared for that experience. And then, as I mentioned, we will have time for questions and answers at the end. So let's go ahead and start with why should I attend a career fair? So obviously the main answer is to meet employers, right? So if any of you are seniors and you're looking for a job for once you graduate, maybe you're looking for a summer opportunity, an internship or a job, maybe you're just getting started, you're new to school, you don't really know what you want to do yet, but you just want to start to kind of feel things out and see who's out there. Career fairs are a really, really wonderful way to do that. So some of the types of employers that will be at the fair are employers that are looking to hire students for entry level positions for after graduation. So again, if you're newly graduated and looking for an opportunity, those employers really love to come to our fairs to meet you. There will also be employers who are looking to speak to you about possible internships and co-ops. So it's not just for full entry level positions. Sometimes there are people who are looking for sophomores, juniors, seniors who want to do a summer internship or a school year internship. There are lots of opportunities. And as I mentioned, even if you're not looking for anything particular right now, it's still absolutely always worth it to come just to explore, to learn, to see what kind of companies there are there, maybe to network a little bit. Networking, as I'm sure you've all heard many people tell you, is really such a key part of getting job opportunities. So even if you're not actively looking for something right now, it's absolutely worth your time to come and just start meeting people and kind of getting the lay of the land. So we have two fairs that we're going to be doing in the coming weeks. We have an in-person fair and a virtual fair. Now, one thing to note is in the fall, we did our in-person fair first, and then we did our virtual fair second. This time around, we're going to do the opposite. So we're going to have our virtual fair first and then our in-person fair. That's simply because our in-person fair is at Gancher, and Gancher was only available on a certain date. So we swapped it this time, but I just want to make sure people don't get confused. The virtual fair is going to be next Friday, February 3rd. The in-person fair is going to be the following Friday, February 10th. You are more than welcome to come to both. We definitely encourage people to attend both if they'd like. One or the other is also fine. So I just wanted to highlight some of the key differences between the two. So the in-person fair, as I mentioned, is in 2 weeks on February 10th. It's going to be from 11:30 to 3:30. It is in the Gancher Center. And we're opening it to 150 employers. We are not necessarily going to have quite that many. We might only have closer to 115, but that's still a lot of options. And all of those employers are going to have booths set up all around Gancher Center, so you can just walk around and just kind of peruse. It's pretty informal. You can just kind of walk around, walk up to any of the ones that you're interested in. They might have some handouts for you to take. They'll probably have maybe a QR code on the table. So, saving paper, saving trees, so that you can just kind of take that QR code and it will link you right to their website so you can learn a little bit more about the company. Another cool thing about the in-person fair is we have a photo booth available for LinkedIn photos. So if you want to get a fancy professional headshot, that is something that you can do at the in-person fair. The virtual fair is going to be next Friday from 1 to 4 p.m. and that's going to be held entirely on Handshake. So it is an entirely virtual fair. You do not have to leave your room. The way that the virtual fair works is that you create a schedule. So basically employers will set up, from 1 to 1:30, we're going to do a group session, and then we're going to have a bunch of one-on-one sessions. So we'll have opportunities to meet with students who just want to chat with us one-on-one, and then maybe we'll do another group session later in the afternoon. So you can go through all of the different employers that will be in attendance and say, okay, at this time I want to attend this employer's group session. At this time I want to do this employer's one-on-one session. We'll get into more of the nitty-gritties of what that actually means today. But just so you know, that's kind of how it works, is you have to create a schedule ahead of time in order to attend the virtual fair so that you know where you're going at each time during the afternoon. As I mentioned, there are both group sessions, which is kind of like an info session. Lots of students will pop up into the same virtual room and the employer will share a bit about their company. There are also one-on-ones, which are 10 minutes long, And those are opportunities if there's a company you're really interested in and you want to get the chance to talk to a recruiter one-on-one, you can sign up for one of the quick 10-minute one-on-ones. It is important to note that in order to attend the virtual fair, you do have to have a working computer and internet access. And we will talk more about other things to keep in mind to make sure that you have a successful virtual fair as we keep talking. So, Kelly, I am going to turn it over to you.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much. So as Willa mentioned, the in-person fair is going to be February 10th at 11:30. So let's talk about how to prepare yourself before the fair and what you need to have ready. First step, register for the fair. Willa, as she mentioned, is going to talk and walk you through how to do this shortly. And you have a busy schedule, lots of classes, so make sure you add that to your calendar so that you don't miss next Friday for the virtual and the following for the in-person. You also want to think about researching the companies, and Handshake makes it really easy for you to do that when you look up the career fair and look under employers tab. Research the ones that you're interested in. As was mentioned, there's going to be over 100 employers across different various industries. And you may see some companies that you've had your eye on for a while, and this is an awesome opportunity for you to connect directly with a recruiter. And or you can take the opportunity to discover some companies that maybe you've never heard of. So some things to think about when you're checking out and doing that research is what jobs and internships or co-ops are they hiring for, to have a sense of that. Where are they located? Check out their website. What questions do you have for them? It's really a great way to get prepared for the opportunity. Employers are really excited to meet you, and they're coming to Tufts especially to just talk to you. So this is a great way to get started. So for next suggestions, you want to have your resume ready and polished before next Friday. So when you meet with an employer, they'll want to get a quick glimpse of who you are and what you've done. So career center appointments are a great way to get your resume reviewed and to make sort of a game plan for the fair. You can sign up in Handshake using look up for general appointments, or you can go for a specific one based on your field of interest. So for example, best practices for creating a resume specifically for the art field. You might want to meet with Katie, who's a career advisor in our office. You can make these appointments, as I mentioned, in Handshake. And sometimes we know that the appointments can be, busy and booked in Handshake. So you can always stop by Career Labs, which are only 10 to 15 minutes long, and they're with trained career fellows. It's every day. They're held Monday through Friday, 12 to 2 in Dowling. And they also have virtual evening hours on Tuesday, Thursdays from 5 to 7 p.m. So these are a perfect way for having your resume reviewed as well. The other thing to remember is to make sure you upload your resume to your Handshake profile so that employers can access it and check it out. You also might want to make some copies of your resume for the fair because there's some particular employers that you want to connect with. This would be a great way to have it in hand when you're doing your introductions and mingling. So now, when it comes to preparing and walking around and thinking about who you're going to talk to, you might be wondering, what do I say when I meet with employers, or how do I start that conversation? Well, when you start these, they really think about them as just an introduction. So you're not going to go long-winded, talk for a long time. You're going to be thinking about who you are, what you're studying at Tufts, to share why you're there, and you can ask a question that you might have for them. Now, keep in mind, there's a lot of students that are going to be at the fair, so you might not have a lot of time and have an in-depth conversation, but it's a great opportunity for you to collect handouts. They're going to have QR codes that you can scan and ask those specific questions about opportunities. So we have an example of what, for example, I would say if I was meeting with a recruiter at the career fair, and I might say something, it might start with, "Hi, my name is Kelly, and I use the she series pronouns. I'm a junior. I'm really excited and interested in education. I'm attending the career fair today to explore and learn about opportunities that might be related other than teaching. I'm excited to be talking to you because I read about your internship program, and it seems like a great opportunity to gain experience working with younger children. Can you tell me a little bit more about the internship program?" So something like this is a perfect way to start those one-on-one conversations. And if you have some time to plan, it could be helpful for you to write this down, even in a notebook. Because this will help you to start your conversation in a way that's confident, and it sets the tone for the conversation that follows. So now we're going to move on to the day of the fair. And let's talk about this, because now you know what to expect and you've done some preparation. So now the question is, what do you bring? So here's some reminders of some things to bring. Your Tufts ID for registration. You want to have your phone with you for scanning those QR codes when you're walking around the employer's booths. It's optional, not mandatory, but having a mask on hand, as there will be a lot of people in the room. Copies of your resume, which we mentioned, so if you have those to give to employers when you're networking, and spreading the word by bringing your friends. Have some fun with this. Compare notes even after you've talked to different employers after the event to kind of see what your friends have learned and what stood out for them. So when we want to talk about polishing your look, this is about what to wear, and we get a lot of that question. We get that question a lot. And polishing your look, we like to suggest it, polishing yourself to the point of what you would wear to work. So wear something that makes you feel confident. You don't want to be distracted by what you're wearing. You want the focus to be on your experiences, your skills, your qualifications, and your interests. So keep in mind, as was mentioned, Willa said there'll be a photo booth available where you can get a headshot photo and have that taken and put on your LinkedIn profile, which is really cool. So you want to be dressed professionally for your photo so that you give off a great impression for meeting the employers as well. So when it comes to now that you're walking around and thinking about approaching different recruiters, what's a way to do that? Well, introduce yourself, be courteous, and show your enthusiasm and your curiosity. Remember, they're excited to talk to you too. And ask tailored questions. And that goes back to your prep and researching the company so that you're prepared and confident when you're walking around and knowing who you're talking to. Of course, it's really fun when you look around and there's lots of swag, lots of giveaways that the employers put on their tables. So walk around and grab some swag, grab some handouts, look for those QR codes to scan to get more contact information. Take notes, because you're going to be, interacting. It's a lot of fun and excitement, so you can remember what you captured when you were there interacting with people. And be sure to ask the employer contact for their information. You may have some follow-up questions after the event, so you can reach back to them and keep in touch. So you could also think about, because it was mentioned, there is the in-person and the virtual fair. Some, but not all employers will be attending both of them. So employers at the virtual fair may be holding group info sessions. So that's really good if you want to learn more about the company and or have one-on-ones, which is an opportunity to spend 10 minutes chatting with the recruiter, which is a fabulous opportunity. And if there's an employer that you want to connect with further, it's worth checking if they'll be at which fair. If you attend the in-person, will they be at the virtual? If they're at the virtual, the in-person, so that you can snag a one-on-one session with them during the virtual. So after the fair, what to do afterwards? Well, we have 4 things that we suggest. If you had like a conversation with a recruiter that you're really excited about the opportunity, or you had a really helpful conversation, you can get the recruiter's contact information, and it's really recommended that you send a thank you email. Email is fine, and the timing, send it right after the fair. Thank them for their time and their information. Other things to do when you're after the event is to find the employer's Handshake profiles and see if they're currently hiring. If you submit an application, just remember to reach out to that recruiter that you met at the event and let them know that you applied and that you're looking forward to continuing the conversation about your candidacy for the opportunity. If you follow companies on Handshake, you'll be alerted to any jobs or events that they post in the future. So it'll be a curated opportunity email that will come to you. So I think you're going to have such an enjoyable experience at both the virtual and the in-person that I suggest that you sign up for both. register for both events because there are going to be new and returning employers across both events. So check it out. And so now I'm going to turn it over back to Willa to go forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. So I'm actually going to escape here and stop sharing my screen real quick, because one thing I want to show you before we move on to talk about the virtual fair is I just want to kind of give you a look at what this is all going to look like on Handshake. So if you want to register for the in-person fair, you're not sure how to do it, if you want to see who's going to be attending the fair before you go, I'll just show you a little bit of what that's going to look like. So give me 1 second here. So this might look familiar to those of you who have used Handshake. Hopefully that's most of you. This is the homepage. So this is what you'll see when you first log into Handshake. Now, say you want to look at the fairs that are coming up. So what I would recommend doing is going to the events tab up in this top left corner. Oftentimes, the first thing that will pop up actually is the fairs. So on my profile, when I go to events, right away, I see Tufts Virtual Career Fair and Tufts In-Person Career Fair. If for whatever reason those don't pop up automatically for you, you can also go to category up here and filter to only see career fairs. And then my window is blocking me. View results. And then you'll see, and some of these are other schools and whatnot, but you'll see the Tufts ones right up here. So we've been talking about the in-person fair so far. So say I want to apply for the fair, or I want to register for the fair rather, I will click on this right here. And here is our in-person fair page. So again, just to reiterate, we are doing our in-person fair first, or our virtual fair first, I'm so sorry. And then we're doing our in-person fair second. I know that's a little confusing because we're talking about the in-person fair first for this presentation. I just wanted to start with the in-person fair since I think that that's one that people might get a little bit more nervous about. We had a ton of students attend our in-person fair last time around, so I'm assuming that we're going to have a lot of people there as well. So I just wanted to really focus on that first. But again, the in-person fair will be in 2 weeks on Friday, February 10th. So right now it tells me actually that I'm not qualified to join this fair. That is not something you need to worry about. That is because my student profile is a dummy account because I'm not a Tufts student, so it won't let me register. But if you go to this page, it will say register. If for some crazy reason it says not qualified, reach out to us at the career fair and I will help you figure that out. Regardless, if you scroll down on this page, then you'll see a little description about the fair. You'll see it's 14 days away. We can even see what employers are going to be attending. So if I click right here on see more employers, I can scroll down and I can see a whole bunch of employers that are going to be at the in-person fair. So all of these employers are going to have representatives on our campus setting up booths. You can also even search by categories. So if you want to see only which people at the fair accept OPT or CPT, you can click on that. If you are looking for ones that have job opportunities versus internships versus co-ops, etc., full-time versus part-time, you can look for all of that stuff just by using the filters. And I think this is something that Kelly just mentioned, if you want to follow individual employers, say you're somebody who's really passionate about alpha sites, you really are just waiting for a job to open up at alpha sites, then you can follow them. That's something that I always recommend doing even outside of the fair. Just if there are companies that you want to be consistently hearing from, finding out, getting like a notification if they put a new job opportunity on Handshake, etc., then you can click follow. And that means that then, say you already follow a bunch of employers and you want to know if any of them are going to be attending the fair, then you can click on the employers I'm following tab. I'm not currently following any on my profile, but if I were, I could see right here if they're coming. So that's a pretty handy thing to do as well. So that's the basic of the in-person fair on Handshake. It's pretty straightforward. We're going to talk about the virtual fair next, and then I'll show you what the virtual fair looks like in Handshake as well afterwards, because that's a little bit more complicated since you have to create a schedule. For the in-person fair, not really the same. I do it would be great for you to register for the in-person fair on Handshake so that we can really see we can see the numbers, the expected numbers of who's going to be attending the fair. You are going to have to check in when you get to Gancher. So as Kelly mentioned, you want to make sure that you have your Tufts ID, because you're going to have to wait in line to go to our registration table and tap your card in anyway. All right. So the virtual career fair is coming up real fast. It is next Friday. So if you are interested in attending the virtual fair, definitely pay attention as we chat right now, because there are some to-do list items that you're going to want to take care of in the next week. So I mentioned this a little bit before, but I will again. How is the virtual fair different from the in-person fair? One major perk about the virtual fair is you can attend from your own home. This is all virtual. You do not need to attend anything in person. You also get the opportunity to meet employers via group sessions and one-on-one sessions. So at the in-person fair, everybody's just kind of mingling around and stopping by booths. I will warn you that last season it was quite busy. So sometimes if there was a popular employer, there would be multiple people waiting in line to chat with that representative at the booth. One of the cool things about the virtual fair is that you don't have to wait in any lines. You will sign up ahead of time for a one-on-one with a recruiter or for a group session, and you can just click join video and you'll just be right there at the right time. You have the power to create your own schedule. So again, you can plan ahead exactly who you're going to be talking to at what different point of the afternoon. There's also going to be a Zoom help room available for questions. So I know sometimes students, maybe the representative doesn't arrive on time, or you're having tech issues, or you're just kind of confused about how to show up for the virtual fair. You can just like jump into our little Zoom help room, and myself and somebody else from the Career Center will be there to chat with you and answer any questions that you may have. So what can you do to prepare for the virtual fair ahead of time? So again, that's going to be this coming week, since we only have a week until the virtual fair. So again, much like the process for the in-person fair, you're going to want to register for the fair on Handshake. You're going to want to update your resume, and you're going to want to research employers. There are some key differences here, so we're going to get a little bit more nitty-gritty for this particular fair. One thing that we really recommend that you do is update your Handshake profile. This is something that's worth doing for the in-person fair as well, but it's particularly relevant for the virtual fair for a couple of reasons. One is because employers who maybe have a one-on-one setup with you might be curious to learn a little bit more about you beforehand, but also because some companies have requirements. Maybe they're only hiring students that are seniors. That means that they might set up their schedule so that you can only sign up for a one-on-one session with them if you are a senior, for instance. So you want to make sure that you have the accurate profile information so that you can sign up for the right employers. It's really important that you complete your profile for those reasons. You want to include your major and minor, your GPA, work authorization. All of that information is just helpful to have on there so that, again, you won't accidentally, say you don't have your GPA listed, and an employer says they will only allow people to sign up for a session if they have X GPA. You might have that GPA, you just didn't put it on your Handshake profile, so you suddenly don't have access. So you just want to make sure that you're being thorough. Another thing that's really, really important is to set your profile to community. So I will show you how to do that when I share my screen to show you what Handshake looks like for this process. But that is just a requirement for, it's a Handshake thing in order to attend a fair on Handshake. Just tech-wise, you do need to have your profile set to community. That means basically that both employers and students can see your profile. If you don't like that, you can always get rid of it right after the fair. If you'd rather have a private profile where nobody can see you, just you can see other people, you can, creep around on your own. I get that. That's fine. But for the duration of the virtual fair, you do need to change your profile to community. So let's talk about creating your schedule. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go and see who is going to be attending the virtual fair, just like I just showed you for the in-person fair. And then for each one of those employers, you can click on their profile and you can see what schedules they've set up. They might say, okay, we have group sessions available at this time and this time, and then we have some open slots for one-on-ones at these times. And so you can say, oh, great, I'm really interested in this company. I really want to attend one of their group sessions, and they have a group session at 2. Okay, great. I'm going to attend Bain's group session at 2 and add that to your schedule. Now that means that your 2 o'clock is filled. You have something already to do at 2, but maybe there's another company you're interested in and they have a group session at 3. Perfect. I also recommend that you check back throughout the week to see what companies have listed for their schedules. Some of our companies might still be finagling things. They might not have put up a schedule yet. So if there's a company that you're really interested in and you see they're attending the fair, but they haven't created a schedule yet, they still probably will. Well, they must. That's the only way they can attend. So check back on Handshake, and by Friday, they will have put up their schedule, and then you can see if there's any slots that still fit your open spots. It's also really important that you're not late to any of your sessions. The one-on-ones are only 10 minutes long. So if you're 5 minutes late to a 10-minute long session, you're really wasting everybody's time. Sometimes it ends up meaning that everything goes a little bit behind. We don't want you to run over with a recruiter and then they're going to be late for their next session. So please don't be late. Please be on top of your schedule and make sure that you show up when expected to. You'll see over on the right-hand side here, here's just an example of what a schedule might look like. So maybe from 1 to 1:30, you're going to attend a group session with HPR, then you're going to attend a few one-on-ones after that. Then maybe you'll take a break. You know, you don't have to attend a session for every single second of the window of time that the fair is happening. Maybe you want to take a little lunch break or whatever. Then you've got a group session that you're really excited about at 2:30, and maybe another one after that, and maybe you want to squeeze in one more one-on-one and then be done, right? So you can really make your schedule whatever you want it to be. If you want to take breaks, that's fine. If you want to fill it to the brim, that's fine. If you want to do only one-on-one sessions or only group sessions, that's fine too. Another thing that's really important for the virtual fair is to prep your technology. None of us are new to the virtual landscape after this many years. So I'm sure you're all very familiar with how these sorts of things work, but you really don't want to be scheduled to have a one-on-one with somebody and then your Wi-Fi isn't working or your camera isn't working, right? So you want to make sure that you plan ahead and just double check your tech, make sure everything's good to go. You do need to have a wireless connection. You do need to have a camera and microphone. We strongly recommend using Google Chrome for your browser. That just Handshake works a lot better there, and all of the video chats for this fair are happening through the Handshake. It's not on like Zoom or something. It's going to be on Handshake. There are occasionally one-off employers who would prefer to meet on Zoom, and if that's the case, they will list their Zoom link in the information for you so you know. But most of the time it's through Handshake, and Handshake video platform just works better on Chrome. If you want to ahead of time, I would strongly recommend testing your network at networktest.twilio.com. If you go to that website, it will just give you the opportunity to like test your camera, test your mic, test all of these things so that you can feel confident that everything's ready to go. All right. Now let's take a look at what that looks on Handshake before we get into day of the fair stuff, just because I don't want to stress people out too much and be like, wait, but I don't even understand how this whole schedule thing works. So we'll do that really quick, and then I'll pop back on and talk a little bit more about what to expect when you're actually in your sessions. All right. All right. We are back. Same page we left off at. I'm going to go back to the events page again. And this time I'm going to click on virtual fair. So we're going to click on this. Hoping I'll be able to show you this, and then I am. Oh man, once again, I'm not qualified to join. That's a bummer. Let's see. Can I not show you how to make? Okay. So this is what the virtual fair page looks like. Unfortunately, I am not at this moment able to show you how to create your schedule, but I'm going to see if I can figure that out before we're done, and I can quickly walk you through it. But basically what would happen is if you click, it would say register here. It will say register here for you. Then it will look quite a bit like it looked for the in-person fair where you can see a list of all the employers that are attending, but then you can take that one step further and you can click on the individual employer you're curious about, and a window will pop up that will be like, they're hosting a group session at 3. They have some open one-on-one spots at 1:10 and 2:40 or whatever it might be. And you'll be able to see which slots are still available, and you can click add to schedule, and then you'll be all set to attend at that particular time. There will also be a tab that, this is all very straightforward, and I think you'll be able to see it quite easily if you do this on your own. There will be a tab that you can click on that's my schedule, and then you can see who you've already signed up for things with. So you'll be able to see like, oh, I'm busy at 2:30 doing a group session with this company, so I can't attend the group session with this other company that's also at 2:30, but that company maybe has one at 3, so then you can do that one instead. I hope that makes sense. But definitely come on to here just to check it out. Make sure that you do register and set your schedule up ahead of time, because that is the only way that you can participate. You can see all this information here too. You can see a link to the Zoom help room so that you can click on that if you have any issues. We've got some other resources here as well. So if you want some further information on how to set up your schedule and whatnot, you can find some more at this link. And as I mentioned before, I just want to reiterate no-show policy. So just like I said, don't be late to your sessions. Please don't no-show any of your sessions. It's really a bad look for us. It is a bummer for the employer. It's also a bummer if there's a student who really wanted to meet with a company and they didn't have any availability because students had already selected all the time slots. So then you might be taking a slot away from somebody else who really, really wanted to attend and meet with that particular employer. So our no-show policy basically says that we ask that students who are no longer able to attend their session to give notice, cancel it, take it away from your schedule beforehand. It's just a courtesy. It's a representation not of just yourself, but also of the Tufts community. And if you do have many no-shows, and this goes for the fair, but also for any other, if you're doing an on-campus interview through the Career Center, if you have a bunch of no-shows, then that may result in the loss of Handshake access. So just something to keep in mind. Please don't be late. Don't miss your sessions. All right. I'm going to jump right back over to our PowerPoint here. And I'll go back to present mode. Computer is quite slow sometimes. Here we go. All right. So let's talk day of the fair. So it is the day of the virtual fair. It is a week from now, Friday at 1 p.m. Some things to do. First thing, check your tech. Once again, you want to make sure that you check all of that stuff before any of your scheduled sessions. So if you have a one-on-one scheduled at exactly 1 p.m. right when the day starts, check your tech before 1 p.m. You also want to find a quiet location. Just find somewhere where you're not going to be too distracted, where there's not too much going on. Ideally, if you're doing a one-on-one, then having a nice clean background and not too much distracting stuff happening so that you can be present and available to meet with your recruiter. Just like Kelly mentioned before, you want to polish your look. Again, that can mean kind of whatever it means to you. We don't want to tell you things that you absolutely cannot wear. But what does it mean to you to feel confident and put together and maybe not wearing any busy patterns or things that are going to distract from the content that you want to share with the recruiter? You want it to be about the words coming out of your mouth and your beautiful smile, and not about your big jewelry. But of course, you also, you want to be true to yourself. So don't feel like you need to hide your true self for these kinds of experiences either. As I mentioned, I will say it one more time, be on time to your sessions and don't ghost. So making the most of your one-on-one, this is somewhat similar to Kelly's explanation about how to utilize, first impressions when you're walking up to a booth for the in-person fair. You might want to create another one of those little elevator pitches that's like, here's who I am, here's what I'm interested in, here's the questions I have for you. But in general, the main thing that matters is just that you be courteous, that you show enthusiasm and curiosity. Ask tailored questions. So really do, if you have only 10 minutes with a recruiter, you want to make sure that you're using that time wisely. You might have a recruiter who has specific questions for you, but most likely this is really your opportunity to get the most out of your time with them. So don't expect them to lead the conversation. Come prepared with some questions that you have, not just for the sake of showing that you know how to ask a question, but so that you can genuinely learn a little bit more about the company and their opportunities. This is a time for you to gather information, but it is also a time for you to put your best foot forward and demonstrate to the recruiter that you're really interested if they do have opportunities that you're particularly excited about. And they might remember your name, especially if you send a follow-up note afterwards, and they might want to consider you for opportunities. I also recommend taking notes if they mention anything about their internship program or the deadline for an application for a job. Write it down. Never hurts to write information down. And I also recommend asking for contact information. You can usually find them on Handshake afterwards, but it's never a bad idea to just take down their email address so that you are absolutely confident that you know how to follow up. As I mentioned, once again, there is a student Zoom room. You'll be able to see that link right on Handshake on the FAIR page, and it will also be in this PowerPoint. I will send this out to you at the end after we're done today so that you can have access to the links that are at the end of the presentation. After the fair, quite similar to everything Kelly mentioned about the in-person fair, send your thank you notes to anybody that you had some really good conversations with. Follow the companies that you're interested with on Handshake so you can see about any other opportunities that they might have coming up. Apply for said opportunities. If you do apply for an opportunity, don't forget to tell your recruiter, be like, hey, thank you again so much for meeting with me. I just wanted to let you know that I submitted an application for blah, blah, blah opportunity. And that's just helpful for them because then they can be on the lookout and make sure that your application gets the attention it deserves. Just some helpful links. Again, I will send out this PowerPoint so that you can have access to these links later on. Links to register for the fairs, link to the Tufts Career Center website. If you want to attend our career labs, which are Monday through Friday from 12 to 2, all that information is on the career lab page, but you can also just stop right in and chat with somebody. If you want to make a career advising appointment, or if you want to just join the Zoom room on the day, all of that information is right there.